Good evening. Thanks for coming. This is quite impressive. I guess we must be in really deep trouble. Just kidding. I have a couple of things I'd like to start out with before we get into the actual program. We have some honored guests. We have a battalion chief from Dalton, or
Safety County, Dalton, yeah.
yes,
Area.
Mike Schmidt, is it?
Mike Harris.
Mike Harris, okay, I'm sorry. And we have the executive director for the Santa Clara Fire Safe Council. And I'm told her name is pronounced Patty Cecil, but there's many versions in the audience. And the other thing I'd like to do is just spend a minute to introduce the fellas. And at the moment, just fellas, but I think that'll change. Oh, no, that's not true. We do have individuals. Yeah, one now. Yes, it's fun. It's good. People have been working on this, half a dozen of us, for well over 6 months. And I'd like to introduce them, and they're going to be talking tonight. I'm going to start out with Al Fernbach, who's he's a fellow Midwestern. Grew up in the Midwest, you know, soul of the earth, really nice people. And he's going to talk about, a little later, he's going to talk about the tragic fire in Paradise that he had to cover because that's what he does as a sign of Christ for making up.
Larry, can you lift the mic up to your
You
mouth?
need it more?
Yes.
Is that better?
Yes.
But we want more.
Okay, so let's see. Tell me again and again and again. I'm a little older and I learn fairly slowly. And Al's been, I think we're all came about in the early 70s. In fact, I'm starting to think everybody up here got here about the early 70s and the county shut us down and we've all just been rattling around. Except for the young, how do these younger ones get up there? Did you build the house without a permit?
Garage.
Garage, yeah, it's somebody's garage. Jerry Alonso's here, he's the owner of the Pony Patch on the summit, and he's been here since mid-70s. Yes, and there's no ponies anymore.
No homes, no kids, they all left.
David Fulligar, where are you, David? Oh, there you are. David's an Englishman. He got here in the 70s. He's been a good friend of mine for all those years, which I think should tell you something about his judgment. But he's been working on these projects for 10, 15 years. Let's see, who else is in that court group? Where's Jeremy Cole?
Right here.
Jeremy Cole describes himself as a fifth-generation landholder. He comes from the original Cole family that came over, was it the Mayflower? So that's the team that we put together at Stryland Church to get this started. And it was I don't say an experiment, it was a goal of our interim minister, only in back years we had at Scotland Community Church. And we had to change our ministers because, you know, it was time. And he came in and pointed out to us that most of the work the church needed to do happened to not be in the church. It was in the community. And, so that's how this project got started. And those are the people who are going to speak tonight. Now, the other thing I want to point out is, for me, it's a watershed because the Loma Prieta Community Foundation, which is, we've had a long and interesting relationship over the years. Sanjay Kandwal is the president of it, and he's on the team now. He just says, Larry, don't say anything that's going to get our C3 in trouble. Okay. And just in the last couple of weeks, Robin Porter and her husband Mark have joined up too. So the team is getting kind of sturdy. And we're going to talk about it tonight. And I would like to point out that you have an information thing. We need volunteers in many different roles to make this work fill that sheet out, fill that sheet out. Let me put this one on, I'll wiggle this one. Many volunteers, so fill that sheet out. There's a form on the bottom to tell us how we did. So if you don't want to be nice, throw it away. If you want to be nice, fill it up. And remember, it does take a community to save a community. It's going to take all of us. We've got real issues up here. We've always had them, and now they're worse. So, what are we going to do? This one? Okay. Now, this is what we're going to be talking about in a kind of a roundabout way. We've decided that there's almost an unlimited number of, shall we say, opportunities to fix problems up here. But we're focusing rather closely on this particular one. We need safer county roads. They've never been great, and now that we recognize that fire is a much bigger problem than we thought about, we need them, and we need them bad, especially during fires and also winter storms. So that's what we're going to be spending a lot of our time on. But right now, tonight, we're going to do a little background here. I've asked, or we've decided that Al's going to tell us about some of his experiences. He was on site with the CBS Institute and NBC Institutes.
Both CBS in Santa Rosa and NBC in Paradise.
Did you hear that? CBS in Santa Rosa,
NBC.
NBC in Paradise. And he's got some videos that frankly should scare the hell out of you. Now, so that we'll start that next, and then we're going to talk about, Jerry Alonzo's going to tell us some things about what property owners need to do or can do to make ourselves safer. Then David Fuller will get up and talk about supporting our firefighters. There's another parcel tax, or I should say a parcel tax. We haven't had one for quite a while, coming up this fall, I believe. And it's going to be a ballot in the mail. So all you people who have given up on mail, search through there and find your ballot and get to vote. And then I'll come back and talk about Summit Road, the Fire Safe Road project. Anybody have any questions? We're going to have a question period at the end for all of this. And I just want to point out on the back of your thing, there's a map. Yes, I know it's a little small. There's about a 3.5, 4 foot one right under the Loma Prieta Cruz back there. Same map. That'll help figure it out. But the reason we need you to do that is we need to know where everybody is. If you look right behind John Hurt's head there, you'll see two maps. And look at them. What they are, they're maps that were built up when we brought Comcast up here in 2012, 2013. And what we were able to do is find neighborhoods. And once you find the neighborhoods, you can really start to get some serious work done, because neighbors help neighbors. So that's all I have. Al.
Thank you, Larry, and greetings to all. Just very quickly, some of the places I've worked, just wanted to mention in Somalia with 60 Minutes, they were height of starvation, young gunmen threatening us every day. In Liberia, we interviewed a 14-year-old general who was very proud to lead his younger troops into battle each day, quite frightening. So if anybody needs any tips on a nice, relaxing place to go on vacation, I can tell you where not to go. So I worked in 2017 in the wine country fires for CBS, and when I was told where to go by the CBS Bureau in Los Angeles, I headed for that location to meet the cameraman, because I do audio. And we, as I got into Santa Rosa, the cell service disappeared. And that's a pretty well-known, in a big disaster, it's pretty well-known that things of that nature happen. And so we all have to, ramp up our, understanding of what to be prepared for as far as communication and staying in touch with loved ones as well. The other thing in Santa Rosa that I wanted to touch on was that we did a lot of the winery stories where the wineries themselves burned down, but the vineyards were totally intact. And so that was an interesting thing to observe. And I sort of wish I lived next to a vineyard instead of a Christmas tree farm, but I have no choice. So I think we can play the first video from Paradise.
Paradise, a quiet, safe, and beautiful place to live, is now gone. Destroyed by relentless flames from the raging campfire, distraught residents surveying the devastation.
Paradise is gone.
Their neighborhood unrecognizable.
It's like a war zone.
After evacuating patients from the hospital where she works, Nurse Nicole Jolly narrowly escaped death herself.
There's fire all around me. Our cars were bubbling, the paint was melting off. The lights in front of me, on the vehicle in front of me, they were melting. And I called my husband and I'm crying hysterically and I said, Nick, I'm gonna die. I can't get out of my car, it's on fire, I'm gonna die. And he says, don't die, run. Get out of your car and run. 2 firemen came out of this truck, picked me up and put me into the truck and put a fire blanket over me and said, you're okay, we'll take care of you.
Now that's where the Today Show, they moved on to another escape story. But what she went on to say in that interview that they didn't use was that a couple minutes after she was rescued, the firemen themselves said, we're not really sure we're going to get out of here ourselves. And they eventually made the decision to turn around and head back to the hospital she had just escaped from, evacuated from. And only because a bulldozer came along and cleared vehicles that had been abandoned or disabled were they able to make it back to the hospital. And then she set up triage in the parking lot and went to work with some other nurses that also had to turn back. And so this photo that I took after an interview with the, and it's not a fire captain, that's actually a CAL FIRE chief, division chief, and also the fire captain of Paradise, California. I don't know how that works to do both, but that is a paramedic vehicle. You can almost see the PA. And that vehicle, the interview we did with him was in a cul-de-sac right behind where I took the picture from. And this paramedic vehicle had started on fire. The roads were hard to get down. And he ran out, and 3 nurses and 3 patients came out of that vehicle. And along with other people that had come to this cul-de-sac, he said that we can stand here and we can survive if we go into this cul-de-sac and we work together. So he sent one person up on the roof to clear gutters and rake pine needles. He had everyone else raking pine needles away from the house. There was still water pressure, and so they were hosing down the area. And I'm not suggesting that any of us should do this, but the problem was they couldn't get out on the roads. And so there were 8 to 10 people that were saved by that. He also knew that if things got really bad, if the house started on fire, that they could probably shelter in the middle of the cul-de-sac. There was an open space there. So we did other stories where we interviewed couples that had started evacuating, and then they realized they had an elderly neighbor. They turned around, they went back, they knocked on the door just to see if she was still there. And there she was in her bathrobe. She'd taken her hearing aids out, and they rescued her that day. And there were stories like that were endless. Every day we heard stories exactly like that, of civilians rescuing their neighbors, and that's what it takes in a disaster that's that large. I think that in some ways when we went to the rescue shelters, or the shelters in Chico after the fire, I noticed there were an awful lot of elderly and handicapped folks. And, you know, I think there's a similarity here in the Santa Cruz Mountains. A lot of us have been here for a long time. And yet another thing to consider. And I think we can do this is about Paradise Elementary School.
On the surface, children from Paradise Elementary School appear perfectly fine.
You're a strong little girl.
Yeah.
But shortly into our interview with 8-year-old Ellie Warble and her mom Kylie, 6 months of trauma flooded through.
Why are you crying?
Because it's so sad.
What's sad?
We're talking about everything that happened to us.
Ellie and her mother's home was among those reduced to ash by the campfire. They've been on the move ever since, recently settling down in a donated RV.
You are strong, but it's when you see your mom sad that you feel it the most.
When my mom's sad, I can feel how she feels, and she makes me feel bad.
More than 18,000 buildings were lost in the fire, including Paradise Elementary.
Good morning.
At the temporary school a few towns south, children silently battle their fears so their parents can worry a little less.
All of them have had a turn of feeling sad and needing to talk to somebody.
Katie Schrum is Ellie's second grade teacher. She says 40% of students in the district moved away after the fire. She developed a questionnaire to help get children talking.
When was the last time every kid in this class was happy?
I think it was a couple of weeks ago.
Despite the upheaval, students are improving and time is healing. That resilience took center stage at a recent recital celebrating survival, where Ellie and her classmates sang about a few of their favorite things.
Xbox and Legos and bikes painted red.
In 6 months, these kids' world has changed. Their courage is a lesson in strength for us all.
When our town burns, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad.
Jonathan Vigliotti, CBS News, Paradise, California.
And so despite the resilience and the recovery in that particular community, it would be much better if we could all work together to prevent or minimize that type of disaster. And I think we're going to move along. I don't know, Larry, did you want this back?
No, I don't want it back. Give it to
Gerald?
Gerald.
Okay. And this is Gerald Alonso.
Hello, I'm a longtime resident here since '74. I live, and you don't remember where the pony patch is when we used to have ponies there. It's alongside the LDS church and across Summit Road from the Christ Child's church, that big pasture there. Houses down on the hill from that. But going to be talking about things we can do, not about county roads, but how do we even get to a county road? What can we do to our driveways? As one of the things, how do we make sure we can even get to a county road? Hopefully the county will take care of the county roads being usable once we get there. So I'm going to talk first about driveway maintenance, and let's go to the next slide. So there's a lot of things that first of all, we know that driveways are not county roads. County's not going to have a darn thing to do with them. It's going to be up to property owners. And so a lot of the things are small, some of them are bigger, but overhanging tree removal, maybe the trees aren't blocking, for sure, they may not be blocking the vehicles, but if they're on fire and they're overhanging the road, fire is going to be dropping down on a car trying to get out and catch the car on fire. Or the limbs will be falling down that normally would not be falling down. Maybe even the trees will be falling down. So eliminating overhanging trees. If a tree is leaning in the other direction, that's not so bad. But if it's leaning across the road in any way, shape, or form, or big branches hanging over the road, that's a real serious issue if we're trying to make sure we can get out from our driveways. Also, similar, we talk about cleaning up brush next to the house, 100-foot clearance that's recommended by almost everybody. But also, that's important on the sides of the road. If the sides of the road are on fire, cars are on, going down the road might end up being on fire. So this is important that we clean shrubbery and everything along the side of the road. It's not just next to the house. Doesn't do any good if the house is okay if you can't get away. So this removal of brush on the sides, that tends not to be well, depending on how long the driveway is, how much of a job it is. Also, it'd be very useful if we have some white spots in the, at least occasional, typically driveways have a hard time accommodating two cars alongside each other, but at least occasionally some white spots cleared so that, if a vehicle is not disabled yet, but on the person driving it knows it's got a problem, like a flat tire or something else, they can at least get to a white spot in the road in the driveway and pull over so that they're not blocking other people. So it's very nice to be able to get around vehicles that are disabled. Again, doesn't do any good to have a nice, good driveway if there's a car in the middle of it and no way to get around it. Also, let's see, did I? No, go back up. Yeah, anyway, not only sections, I did have a line item here, but regarding roads, that doesn't seem to have made it on this slide, but this has to do with, oh no, I guess it's on the, anyway, alternative emergency exits. We quite often have a lot of driveways going down from the main roads, the county roads, and almost all of them are not through. And there may only be a short distance between these various driveways with, a row of houses on each side of each driveway, or, property. But in case a road does get blocked for whatever reason, it'd be nice if for emergency purposes, the community, the neighborhood, the neighbors says, well, I'm going to find a way that you can get to another driveway, go across private property, not something you do on a regular basis, but that they make sure there's a place in the fences, if they have fences, or they would clear an area that allow you to get from one driveway to another in case, maybe you need that in more than one place or something. But anyway, as a neighborhood communities, we need to work together to see if we can somehow get that accomplished. And part of that, may take some tractor work, but hopefully in a lot of neighborhoods, depending upon how big it is, there's probably one or two neighbors that have tractors on their property. And so I'm sure as a neighborhood community, we can get help from our neighbors that do have equipment that can move things. Maybe even when you're trying to cut trees down, sometimes the trees are pretty big and you need some heavy equipment just to move them. Not just to cut them down, but they can get pretty heavy depending on how big the tree is. And again, not all of us have big chainsaws, but maybe some of the neighbors do. Anyway, so we need as a community to be able to make the most of what equipment is available, again, as private property owners. Well, there's the alternative emergency exits on this slide. We also need to, as talked about earlier, warning and alert notification. Cell phones may not be operational, and regular telephones. We need a way of, as a team, somehow alerting our neighbors, whoever hears about something, go around to the neighborhood, in case it's in the middle of the night and nobody knows, some people don't know about it. letting people know about it, knocking on doors, letting people know that there's an issue and they need to get out. That's assuming, you know, that it's that serious. And the odds are, if something's that ferocious, like was in Paradise or even other places, even if it's not that serious, the earlier you get out, the more chances you have of getting out on the county roads, just because we all know when 17 on a Sunday, you don't use 17 on a Sunday at the wrong time, right, if you want to get someplace. And I'm sure it's the same way on San Jose Soquel Road and some of the other major exits. But again, we want to assist neighbors, as was mentioned before. Know our neighbors, know which ones may need help, either because of handicap or just plain elderly that can't do much to get around, or maybe they are not even able to drive a vehicle. They may need to be picked up and transported on their own, you know, as a neighbor to help them out. Maybe they even need help, you know, with wheelchairs or something, getting in and out of the house. They may not have access, you know, they may not have a way to get in and out of the house. They have people come to the house to help feed them and take care of them. So we need to be, all we can do is help our neighbors. It's a community effort, neighborhood effort. And there's another thing, you know, we all tend to put mulch around, you know, pine needles or, let's say, bark, tan bark, whatever it is, and it serves, for one purpose, it serves to keeps the weeds down. And that's one of the major reasons in the past it's been done, is just makes the property look nice, and it reduces the amount of weeds that grow, so it reduces that amount of maintenance work. However, from a fire standpoint, let's look at, there was some work done in, I think it was Nevada University, to see what kind of mulches are not really very good from a standpoint of fire. And their conclusion, well, this is the kind of materials they process to, you know, they make patches and set them on fire to see what all the results were. And the worst one, this is a chart showing the worst ones. And this chart on the left, where it's talking about, you know, the flame height, the red up there, that's not feet or inches, that's relative to the average. But if we look down on the, one of the worst ones is shredded rubber. That is the worst one. And I wasn't even sure why would there be shredded rubber. But a friend, Jeremy Cole, told me, well, shredded rubber is what's used for artificial lawns. I didn't know that. And then it turns out the other thing that's not so good is having a thick layer of mulch, be it wood chips, whatever it is. Do not have a thick layer. The thick layer may be the best for keeping weeds down, but it provides more fuel. The chips are going to burn. So the best, the best two items that were tested were composted wood chips and Tahoe chips. That's just the name of the company that sells the chips. But I'm not sure what kind of wood chips, but a single layer in general, they found that a single layer of chips, you know, does not provide that much fuel. And they'll still burn, but it's very reduced fire. So they definitely recommend only a single layer of chips. That's kind of a hard one to really define, but you know, don't pile them high. Next slide. Yeah, this is an example of a bad idea where the property owner has put chips in a flower bed next to the house. See the porch up there, and again, the chips burn. So even though it looks nice, it's not a good idea. Next to a building, you want to have something that won't burn. Concrete, pavers type of thing, rocks, something that doesn't burn, or you know, brick stuff anyway. So it's got to be careful on what we do with our landscaping, so that when should a fire come, our landscaping is not aggravated. It's at best it's not you know, making it usable, making it possible for us to survive. Any questions? If not, we'll also have questions at the very end. Thank you.
Who's next? You are. Get out of the court.
Okay, I'm going to just, can you hear me? That's not good? Okay. I'm going to be talking about the initiative that Larry mentioned, which is an assessment, somewhat change of pace. Most of this talk is going to, this session this evening is going to be about roads, but I'm going to be talking about the firefighters and our support for the firefighters. I must begin a little legal disclaimer since I'm talking about a CSA 48 assessment. I have to say that I'm not speaking on behalf of any church group, community foundation, or any 501c3 organization. So with that out of the way, let's proceed. I'm sure that all of you remember, we're living up here at this time anyway, the 1985 fire. But you also see that there have been a number of subsequent fires, and the trend that is the scary part. You'll see that in 2016, 2017, and 2018, we had major fires. It should also be noticed that in every case, our amazing firefighters prevented a potentially much more serious situation from developing. So after a fire, we always thank the firefighters for all they've done for us. But what I'd like to suggest is before the next fire is the time when we can ask, what can we do for them? It's a little bit of a crib on a speech by President Kennedy at his inauguration, but so on. So the most important thing we can do for our firefighters right now is to pass a new CSA 48 assessment that will be appearing in our mailboxes in either late October or November. Now, what will this assessment do? It will provide funding necessary for our firefighters to be more effective by passing this assessment. It will restore the number of firefighters per vehicle to 4 per vehicle. Now, I'm going to expand on this a little bit on each of these bullets subsequently, so I'm going to just go straight through them. It will help to upgrade and replace outdated equipment. It will improve 911 response times, and it will maintain the quality of our fire protection, and therefore have an impact on our insurance, which I'll also cover in a few moments. First of all, what is CSA 48? Many of you may not know, probably most of you do. It's County Service Area 48. I have no clue what happened to county areas 1 through 47, but we're in 48. And it includes the communities that you can see listed up there. Within CSA 48, we have 5 volunteer fire stations and 5 county fire stations. For those of you who like pretty pictures, the green stuff is CSA 48. Go back one. So, okay, let's go back. So why does CSA 48 need additional funding? One is to increase staffing levels. The firefighters, there were 25% fewer than there were 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we had 110 volunteer firefighters, and now it's down to 60. The number of calls has increased by 22%. 56 times in 2018, all the firefighters were deployed, so there was nobody in reserve. If you had a heart attack or a problem, there's nobody to help. We also require, in that situation, to have 4 firefighters per vehicle. If there's a house on fire, 2 people have to be in the vehicle in reserve, while 2 people go into the house to help put the fire out. Right now, the current staffing levels don't allow that. It's 3 people per vehicle. need to upgrade aging equipment. Most of the equipment is more than 20 years old. And this is one of the factors that's looked at by the insurance companies when they rate the effectiveness of the local fire departments. Also, with the current budget situation, it's going to be necessary to close one or maybe two of the state fire stations during the off-season. Again, that's a very undesirable thing from the point of view of the insurance companies. They don't like that, and honestly, neither do we. It will also help to improve 911 response times. They're currently running about 10 minutes. Now, if you have a heart attack or a stroke, the optimum help is to get it within 4 to 6 minutes. So how will these funds be raised? It's through an annual assessment of each property in CSA 48. The assessment requires 40 plus 1 vote to pass. By law, these funds can only be used for fire safety services within CSA 48. And by law, none of these funds can be diverted to the county's general fund. This is important because in past situations, that hasn't always been true for some of the assessments that are being raised. The county general fund is somehow sort of grabbed it. The state cannot take this money away. Now, you may ask, as I did, why isn't the government taking care of this? Good question. I've lived up here for 45 years, but the sad truth is that the government, be it federal or state, Democratic or Republican, has never been particularly responsive to our needs. You just got to look at the state of our roads and the fact that a couple of years ago, we had to fund our own water tender. So from a pragmatic point of view, if you want to have effective fire services, the bottom line is we have to chip in to help out. How much would it cost? They say the cost will be an average of $152 a year per family. Now that number is modulated a little bit depending upon how likely you are to benefit from these services. So there's a multiplier, for example, if you live really close to a fire station, it might be 10% more than this. If you live further away from a fire station, under the premise that you are less likely to benefit from a fast response, it might be 10% less than this. The actual dollar amount per parcel will be shown on the ballot, so you'll know exactly what it is you're signing up for. There's an FAQ document on SantaCruzCountyFire.com that gives 4 examples of the cost structure and gives you a whole lot more information about all the CSA 48 assessments, details of pros and cons, and answers to your questions. But note that the fire abatement tax, which was about $135 that we were paying up until, I don't know, 2017 or 2018, remember that was the mandatory thing that we couldn't get rid of. And that went down to Sacramento, disappeared in some rat hole, and we never got any benefit from it. This assessment will be 100% used in CSA 48 for fire services. So you could argue that for an extra $15 a year, compared with the tax we used to pay, this is a hell of a deal. Many taxes are a hell of a deal. I would urge you, if you'd like more information, to go to the website, SantaCruzCountyFire.com. There are 3 documents on that website, and these are multi-page documents. There's a fact sheet, there's an FAQ, frequently asked questions, and there's a mailer which kind of summarizes basically summarizes those other 2 documents. So I think when we look at additional taxes, we all tend to look at it kind of selfishly. What does it do for me? And from my point of view, 2 things come to mind. One is safety, which, Al's presentation was just brings home the whole safety aspects of
the dangers of where we live. And you can probably read this, but when the next fire comes, I'd rather have a well-equipped, well-staffed fire department than one that is somewhat hobbled by lack of funds. The second issue, financial. 50% of the ISO rating of the fire department is used in determining our property, our insurance premiums. And many insurance companies, as you know, are cancelling policies. In the current edition of the Mountain Network News and 95033 Talk, you'll hear lots of stories about people who have had their policies cancelled or had their premiums increased by as much as $3,000 a year. So, in that light, an extra $150 a year is a pretty good deal. Now, I'm not suggesting the passage of CSA 48 assessment will make the insurance problems go away. It won't. But it sure as hell will help, because that's one of the key factors they look at. So in closing, I should also say that we have some professional fire people behind here, so I'm a little embarrassed to be up here talking about fire issues, but there are people at the back of the room who know a whole lot more about it than I do, and I'm sure that they will correct my mistakes. But I would urge you to vote yes on the assessment. Thank you for your time.
Anybody knows what I got here? What is this thing? It's not for your toenails. It's Sandy Mitchell's Loma. Oh,
Just stand by
I
it.
can't hold both of these.
Stand by it. Just stand by it. Just stand by it.
We have one of the members of the audience who lives in a, what do we call it, off the grid house, which, as the name implies, it's in the woods. And when she leaves, she's worried about getting out and getting out through roads that have what across them? Chains, locks, you name it. Now, this thing is really heavy. I don't know how she handled it. Do you keep it by the door or do you keep it in the car? Anyway, this is real. She brought it in. Whoops. She brought it at my request. So let's see, where are we here? I'll do my up here. Yeah. So I'm not going to go through these in detail, but because the point we're trying to make is there's lots of things each one of you can do. Lots of things. Some of them are small, some of them are big. Here's a nice list. Get together with your neighbors so you can figure it out together. Notification plans and cell towers are up. You know the neighborhood you live in, or if you don't, you should. If you're going to lose phone service, cell or otherwise, you need to know it because you're going to be cut off. Big one, take care of those with special needs. Patty, yeah, where's Tricia Wood? Where are you? She can tell you. Tricia Wood runs Neighbors Helping Neighbors?
Mountain neighbors.
Mountain Neighbors Helping Neighbors, okay. Talk to her afterwards. Pets and livestock plans. Shared and private driveway maintenance, Jerry Alonzo talked about that. Emergency escape route planning. Shelter in place options. Identify nearest water sources. And the list goes on. And what we're going to talk about next is this very, very specific and focused problem that's going to take quite a little bit of work to get fixed. And that's, we need safer county roads. We needed them before we started to be fearful of wildfire, and we need them even more now. So here's the kind of goals we set for ourselves, and we've been working on this now, what, about 3-4 months, and I figure we've only got maybe another 3 or 4 years to go. Create a community-wide survey of roads to identify and quantify the viability of skate routes. Part of the data will come from the Firewise projects in the neighborhoods. That sheet you have is another place the data is going to come from. We need to know, we all need to know where we are and how we get out. So tonight, when you leave, you can there'll be a couple people standing by the door that are pass them in. We'll gather the data and see what's next. So what we're going to do is gather that data, take the data to fire safe consoles and fire stations, and obtain the assistance to clarify and prioritize improvements needed to reduce fire risk on our roads. Engage the county to get it done. Now, as these things often do, you can do that, yeah, there you go. You're pretty good at it. As these things often do, we've got some parts of the project that are ahead of others. We've had some very, very helpful discussions with the county. But it's also clear that they want to help. But I got to tell you, they don't know what's going on up there. I mean, it's just true. They don't. They live down there. They live in town. And we had a long discussion the other day about, well, should we have a shaded fuel break? You want me to eat it? Okay. Should we have a shaded fuel break? And what do we do about the fire or the tree cones? And that discussion went on for about 20 minutes before somebody said, you know, we've got all these forest professionals. We should talk to them about which one's best for which area. And I'm serious, this is a real problem. How do we take care of our roads for fire safety? So what can we do now? Well, property owners are pretty clear. Create and maintain defensible space around their buildings and around their property. One of the interesting things you'll find if you drive around up here is it's happening. Kind of slowly, but it's happening. I would say 10-20% of the properties have made significant investments in defensible space. But you know what's interesting? We buy 10, 15 acres, 5 acres, and what do? That's our lot. And so we clear right up to the boundaries. And then the guy next to us has a 6-acre lot, and what does he do? Well, he got defensible space right up to the boundaries. So what's on the boundaries? Brush and trees. So, you know, we simply have to work with our neighbors to cut down that risk as well. We're not going to get any help from the county or the state. We have a federal government. It's just not going to happen. We, in our properties, are on our own. That's just the way it is. Now, what can local governments do? Well, I'm speaking mostly of county and with state assistances. They can, and it's their responsibility to improve our county roads. They are the government agency that is charged by statute with public roads. Let me say that again. It is their statutory responsibility. We just have to help them understand what that means. And as I said earlier, that's not going to happen overnight. But we are making progress, and we need, shall we say, people that are willing to stay on the problem because it's not going to change fast. And then, of course, oh, I put that little improve the maintenance on our roads. I hope everybody understands why. Now, the other thing we have, and we've been looking at this, we have a lot of contributing organizations in our community. The Santa Clara Fire Safe Council is one of them. We have a kind of beginnings of the Santa Cruz Fire Safe Council. We have Fire Wives. We have all kinds of resources which we should be availing ourselves of. They can protect us, they can train us, and hopefully they can plan to improve our community. So what do we need from our county government? By the way, we remember this now. We like to be on our own up here. I don't hardly know anybody that's, let's say, a little joiner. We're all sort of up here because, I want to do it my way. It's just the way it is. But why do we form governments? Historically, why have we formed governments? To share the load on things we cannot do ourselves. That's what county government's for. That's what state government's for. We need to remember that and gently remind them. Again, the counties are responsible for county roads. Has anybody heard the phrase from the county officials, yeah, but we don't have any money? Yeah. How many times? Every time. Well, that's also their problem. They're responsible to figure out a plan and figure out how to get the funds. Now, some of us in the audience aren't going to be happy with this, but it's our job to support that and pay those bills. That's the fact. So this is what we're working with the county public works director and the emergency service person in district or in Santa Cruz, and we need the same kind of work to be going on in District 5, which is right next to us, Bruce McPherson's, and District 1 in Santa Clara County, which is Mike Wasserman. Now, I know these are political actions. They are blatant political actions. And that's why one of our organizations up here is formed as a 501c4 to take political action. And I want to point out to everybody, I don't know where everybody's from, but this coming election season, and it's a weird season because primaries are now in March instead of June. But in this coming season, that supervisory district over there, which is 2, the one you're sitting in, which is 1, and the one over here, which is District 5, all 3 supervisors are standing for re-election. Now, does anybody know how many supervisors it takes to get a majority? 3. So I'm not saying you should, get the red hats or whatever it is you wear to get their attention. But if you want to, now's a good time. I've found personally that you can get much more meaningful conversations with supervisors when they're getting ready to be elected. Hopefully. I think, is that it? Am I done? I won't go over this, but this is the current organizations of people supporting the Fire Safe Road Project. And it's growing, and I hope it grows even more. I think we all would love to have the problem, how do we get all these people busy working and productive? And that's it for me. And now we're going to pass it. We're going to pass it to Sanjay, who's going to. Can we get that off?
All right. Hi everyone. I'm Sanjay Khandelwal. I'm the president of the Prieta Community Foundation, and I've been asked to help moderate this. So this is kind of the end of our presentations, and again, the focus here was about the county roads and what we do about escape routes and stuff, but as we talked about multiple different subjects, and I know that lots of people may have thoughts and questions. My request will be to kind of keep it down to how much editorializing and this is what I think, but get to the question and then we'll figure out the right person who can answer it. Reality is, we probably would not have all the answers. Right? I mean, a lot of it would be, what are we going to do? How do we do this? But that's why we're here together. That's why we're trying to form an organization that we can take some action. I mean, I've gone to these meetings, and I think all of us have said this. It's time to take action. We cannot wait. We cannot wait for the county to do it. We cannot wait for the government to do it. We have to see what can we do, and it feels good to take action. So that might be a lot of the answers. But again, people have things to share. Come on up and or say your question, and I can repeat it. Then, Lisa.
Not a question, but before you launch into the questions and answers, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm the superintendent of schools. I don't get the opportunity to meet with many folks who don't have school-age children in the schools. So when I do, what I wanted to reassure you is that I'm here tonight for a couple reasons. One, I did grow up in a rural area. I was raised by a fire captain. And, but more importantly, I'm sitting here just as the evening goes on, recognizing the magnitude of responsibility that I have in making sure that our kids are safe with regard to any of the things that we're talking about, based purely on the timing of any event. So I went through a strategic planning process with community members, staff, parents, and kids. I mean kids too. And one of the items in our focus area is definitely making sure that our emergency planning is up to date, not outdated, and that it stays relevant. And I want to partner with you to make sure that whatever we're doing to make sure that our county roads are safe, our neighborhoods are safe, that we're in the neighborhood, and we're going to do our part as well. So thank you for what you do. Thank you. Folks in the community, thank you. I'd like to get to know folks in the community that don't have kids in the schools. I've met a few. So you're always welcome to drop by. If you have a concern or a comment, my door is open, and I would welcome the dialogue. So thank you very much, and thank you for doing this tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Right, Ed.
I'm interested in dating. Solve the problem.
You have to come up with.
If you want to solve a problem, you got to have data. I'm an engineer, so that probably doesn't come as a big surprise coming out of my mouth. My question is, has anybody in government, NGOs, universities, anywhere, compiled the data of the number of people, the number of structures, maybe even the number of animals on each road in our area? If so, who is that source?
Can I ask you a question? What do you consider your area?
For me, it's the immediate area we're in right now. What do we call it? District 1 or 2? I lost that part. But I think in terms of the area, currently we're going, called the Summit area. We have two counties. We have Santa Cruz County and Santa Clara County. I think once we know where the people are, we can begin to look at how to get them out. And when we don't know that, then we'll run into the kind of thing that I ran into 6 months ago when I broached this subject with somebody in an official capacity. And the answer was, we don't have time to deal with that. And another one, send me your thoughts, and I never heard back from them. The clock is ticking. We are not going to solve a roads problem unless we know how many people we got to get out of those roads.
So we did not get into that question. That's what we're trying to do, right?
In 2017, after Measure D and SB1 were passed, the supervisor asked his people, how we would like to prioritize our roads for repair. He asked us twice, I think maybe 3 times. A bunch of us in the Santa Cruz Alliance put together a report, which you can, if you want, put the name of the report is the 5-year plan for the summer roads. And it includes, there's a map right above that fire map. You see it's green, and that shows the roads. We analyze the feeders, the traffic, and the total road load up here. Now, I think that would go a long way towards answering your question. What it does not include, which is about, I would say, 40 to 50% of the residences which are not official. And I'm not kidding, this is serious. One of the things we noticed when we did Comcast, and everybody said, well, we won't worry about that, is a lot of single-family homes brought in 2 lines. So, the point is, we have a pretty good idea where the people are, mostly. We have a pretty good idea what the roads are. And that's a beginning point. What we don't know is the quality of some of those roads, and that's the information we need. The other thing we don't know is the escapability of the people living there. Can they move? Can they, I mean, this story about the lady who came to the door in the bathrobe is not humorous at all. It's real. If I take my hearing aids out, it's a much quieter world. So, that's that.
The map that Larry's referring to is the green one on the back, right over there. And I can't read it, sorry. It's the one right next to the window over there. Anyway, that map is compiled from Google Earth at the time when Google Earth showed every house as a little blue house shape. And you can blow that map up and see exactly where all the houses are. Now that doesn't answer the issue that Larry has, which is there could be more than one residence in that property parcel. But if anybody is interested in counting how many houses there are in Summit Woods or in the villa or some other region they care to put a ring around, I'd be happy to furnish a digital copy of that map, and you can actually go ahead and count houses. It doesn't address the other issue, which is how many animals are there, and some of the other things that it would be nice to know. Excuse me, it would be nice to know in the case of a real emergency. But it does include each house.
Do you have District 5 and District 1 as well?
It's whatever is on that. It's as much as I can put together from Google Earth before they shut it down.
Yeah, it's not only District 1 and 5, but it's also Santa Clara County.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Not a question, just a couple of very quick comments. One is you all are doing wonderful work, and I would say thank you. I think you're doing well, and I encourage you to continue, and I'd be happy to participate. Number 2 comment is that this is not just a fire issue. This was an issue in '89 with the Loma Prieta earthquake, and if you look at probability statistics, the chances are that there are going to be issues other than fire that are going to be access issues. My third comment is that Larry spoke with some humor about the roads that are chained off here. And one of those primarily is Wright Station down through Aldercroft Heights, which used to be open to transit, is no longer because of San Jose Water. And that prompts me to ask, what is it that San Jose Water is doing here to be part of this community and to address these issues? The last time I looked, at least one of the board members for San Jose Water was a Loma Prieta resident. I won't name names. If you want to know, we can discuss that. And I would say that when I moved up here, now 20 years ago, I bought 100 shares of San Jose Water so that I could go to their stockholders meetings. I haven't gotten to all of them, but I've been to some. And they just don't pay attention. And this group, the Mountain Alliance, the Loma Prieta School District, and all of us together, I think, have the collective ability to demand more accountability and attention. And they should be an active part of this community. They should be up here sitting in on this meeting. They should be contributing to all of these discussions. That's my opinion.
Very good.
Larry, we haven't talked about the San Jose Water Company, but let's put it on our list.
Yes, we will. And I know it's all like a little bit more, but we have a plan.
All right.
So I know this meeting is mainly about roads, but in the event that we can't get out, what about establishing
shelter-in-place locations like here at the school? So if we can't get onto Highway 17, we have a place that's reasonably safe. I mean, I know this is one, but what about others?
Actually, there's 3 up here. I did a presentation that Kevin Arnold posted about all the mountain organizations last weekend at the Mountain Highland Harvest Festival, Skyline Harvest Festival, and this is a Red Cross site. It's got a Red Cross kitchen. It's got Red Cross arcs back here full of everything from trail mix to water to beds and all that. But there's also one at Redwood Estates, and there's one at Lakeside. So there's 3 up here.
What does the community know about it?
I don't think they do. So that's one of the reasons we did a presentation on all the different mountain organizations, and Kevin Arnold posted that on our community. And we can also post it on the Loma Prieta Community Foundation's website, and you're welcome to look at that. The downside of that is the organization that maintains those arcs and keeps them current, because you don't want to eat 30-year-old trail mix. Used to be 40 people right after the Loma Prieta earthquake, and it's down to about 10 to 20. So they could desperately use some more volunteers to help keep those current in inventory. I actually have a question, that's why I got up.
Okay, so one of the things, yes, this is about roads. We actually talked about that when we were talking about, what is this group about? What's the focus? We decided that having a singular focus almost on roads was the right way to go. There are a whole bunch of us, I'm just going to put it in that context, who are talking about the bigger picture. Right? I mean, today we're talking about fire. There's earthquakes. The rains come along, but what happens with water and all that? Shelter in place might be the right answer for some people, versus escape route. So what do we do in the bigger picture? And then also, how do we get the information out? How do we educate people? How do we tell people, right? And that was a great, you can have all these plans, but if people don't know how to get to it, if people don't know what to do, then what's the point? And then also, how do you come back? How do you, so if there's an earthquake, how do you come back from that? Right? I mean, there was that video of the kids at elementary school, okay, something happened, and what happens after? So that whole picture, there are a few of us talking about it, but I would say it's not even half-baked. So more to come on that. So,
I'm hoping that you folks that organize this meeting would clarify the next steps, what you're expecting neighbors to do specifically in regard to emergency access and quality of the roads and number of the people on the roads. Where are we going with this?
Jerry, you want to come and talk again about the takeaways?
Yeah, there's a couple, there's lots. The next step, the next step is we would like to see every neighborhood in the community. And I say in the community advisedly, knowing that we have what I would call very soft boundaries. So I would prefer you count yourself in rather than out. But here's the deal. We want every community, really every neighborhood, and you know the neighborhoods that you're in better than we do, to form a committee with a couple of leaders, and we want them to do 2 things. We want them to go get a whole patty down the other end of the room there, and get yourself signed up for Firewise training. That's the first thing. The second thing, as you get into that, because that's the thing that's going to help you to sort of understand from a big organization's point of view, what tools you need to look at and how to do it. And as soon as you get back to work, we want you to come and see us and go to things, because that information we can take out of fire supply stuff, and that's what we're going to use to go gently probe the people down in the county level. Okay, so that's the organization you can do now. I want to make one other comment about organization in the community. I have never lived in a community that's better, more loving, more open, responsive to crisis. We're amazing. We have a crisis, everybody comes out. Everybody works. But when it comes to long-term planning, frankly, we suck. It's just that simple. So, we do have to figure out how to put some wheels on this car of how we lay a plan that we can, over the years, build our relationship with the road people. Our roads have been not so gently going downhill for 50 years. Our forests have been growing at their steady 3% for 70 years. And suddenly everybody realized, oh my God, I can't even see the ocean anymore. When I was a kid, we could run all over this hill and it was ocean all the way around the edges. So, I'm no guy. We got younger people here that need to get involved. We need to figure out how to get the wheels on the cart so we can do planning on a long-term basis.
So I'm going to go to that side.
You can let her ask her question.
Oh.
She had a question.
Yeah, I'll come back to you.
I need to get my clip.
Yeah, I know. We don't have.
I have a small voice. My name is Dana, and my husband and I live in Chimichita Park, and we just wanted to share with you something that we've done there that sounds like you might be interested in, the pods. So what we've done is taken our community of 140 homes, and we've broken it into what we call pods. And a pod is like a self-contained group of homes, anywhere between 10 and 13 homes. And we organize pod leaders. So we have 13 pod leaders that are in charge of all the homes. And they've gone out, each pod leader's gone out and met each of their neighbors and put together a list that we can give to emergency responders if we have to evacuate. And list people with special needs, if there's children, what schools they go to. So if you can't get up the hill, you can go pick up their children. And it's made the community a little bit smaller and more manageable as far as trying to figure out what to do. Now we have our own little group of people that we're in charge of. And everybody seems to be on board. We've got about 60 to 70% covered. We still have a few more areas that we have to work on. But it's just an idea, something I thought I'd throw out there.
So two things. One, that was all orchestrated by Patty. And Patty, why don't you stand up so people can know who you are? She's heading up FireSafe and the FireWise program, recognition program. So I think the end goal of what we're hoping for here is that you fill out this piece of paper, put a big X on your map and say, we would like to be a pod leader for some, for some lack of a better word to say it. So as you leave today, please fill these out, and if you could step up, that would be great. One of the things that came to my mind that I wasn't planning on is to challenge Lisa with education. She wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting this, so this is brand new, so worry about that. But when our kids go down the hill, the first thing that happens is they want their keys. to drive on Highway 17. Woo-hoo. And then next thing that happens is the winter storms set in. And so our son, who normally on a good day could get back and forth to high school, the storms hit, and the worst that ever got, this happened multiple times in the winters, was he had to leave school, make his way down 85 where the roads closed. He had to make his way down 101 where 101 closed behind him. He tried to cut through on 152, that didn't work. He had to go all the way down to Salinas and across, and then he came up one, and he came up San Jose Soquel right before it cratered. And so if he didn't have the knowledge of mountain roads, he couldn't have gotten home that night. And so one of the things I worry about is all the newly formed drivers as they leave this community in the 8th grade. It would be nice to have, if emergencies hit on our road system, some kind of quick education before they leave 8th grade about our mountain roads.
I took that same route, by the way. As a principal at Fish.
I've done the same thing on occasion. I'll be rather brief. This is not a question. It's what I think we probably ought to start out with one of our first things. Everyone get together and decide, let's clear the corridors for Summit Road and Old San Jose Road. Let's get logging operations going in there so that it takes it back far enough. There is no crossing of the vegetation from one side to the other. Make each one of these a natural fire break. It used to be that way. Let's get it back and let's make it happen. And then work back to other roads after that. Make it happen. Get a logging company involved. Thank you.
This business of having your kids at high school down in Los Gatos when something happened. My youngest daughter was in high school when the earthquake came, and so she didn't even try to come back. She went to a friend's house, stayed there. I didn't even know where she was. She couldn't get hold of me, but I knew she had a lot of friends in high school, and she just went to a friend's house and stayed there. Finally, 2 days later, we connected up. I mean, this is, don't even try to get around roads and stuff. Be it a fire, be it an earthquake, or be it flooding. People that are down in Los Gatos, I'm sure they have friends they can stay with for several days.
Great.
Just a quick logistics question. So someone had mentioned that if you and your local neighbors keep your property trimmed up, which we do, I live in Loma, Prieta Avenue, things are very nicely trimmed up around where we are, but there is one property, a pretty good sized parcel that is grotesquely overgrown, and if somebody went by and tossed a cigarette or tossed a spark or anything else, it's a tinderbox. And it's been a tinderbox now for 4 or 5 years, and many of us on the road have contacted both fire departments in both counties, put notes in the mailboxes. I know this from talking with neighbors. Who the heck do we call about it? We called Burrell Station, we called the other. It's short of showing up on the property with a weed whacker and a tractor on property that doesn't belong to us. What are we to do as neighbors? Because if that tinderbox goes up, it's going to burn the entire Loma Prieta Avenue, which is very well maintained in every other area.
It's always been open for emergency.
Eric, you want to take this?
Yeah, well, take it. All your
Patty.
supervisors.
Actually, hang on. Patty.
All your supervisors.
So, Patty Ciesla from the Fire Safety Council. So I can answer your question. This is what Firewise will help you do, okay? Firewise brings all neighbors together to solve a common problem in the community. So if you've got someone who is not coming to the table, is not allowing someone to work on their property, maybe through the Firewise process, they can be educated, informed, at least reached out to. And if there's any kind of like bad blood in the neighborhood, one of the beauties of that is you've got kind of a neutral party with the Fire Safety Council to help you. So we don't have to pit neighbors against each other. And we bring in fire, our experts in the back of the room. They'll be part of the Firewise team. So I would just encourage you to sign up for learning how to become a Firewise community. That's one way to try and break through that. Yeah, you don't have a right to go on your neighbor's property. So yeah, make sure your dispensable space is done before you look at that.
Can you talk about how people sign up to be Firewise?
Oh.
So my question for Patty was, can you talk about how people sign up to be a Firewise?
So the short answer is I'll have my business cards, or you can just go to our website, sccfiresafe.org, and under education, click on the link. And there's a link to request a Smokey Bear visit for Firewise. So that goes into our education coordinator's inbox, and she will make an appointment to come out and meet with you in your community. Lynn, do you want to stand up? Who's my fire safe team here? Brad, JR? Is there anybody here from Santa Cruz County Fire Safe? Yep, okay. Bonnie Dune? Yeah. So these are your Firewise and Fire Safe people that can help you. So, you know, the Fire Safe Council in Santa Clara County has been very well funded. We've been amazingly successful with grant writing. We need to get you guys that amount of funding. So we have a $600,000 grant from CAL FIRE, we got a couple of $200,000 grants from the feds, we get money from local municipal governments, county, PG&E. We got money, and so we're using it where we're allowed to use it. You really kind of want to think about how you guys can assemble funding for the work that you want to get done. It's one thing to go knock on county roads door and say, we need you to fix your roads. And they say, yeah, we got no money, go away. So money will solve these problems. So a Fire Safe Council can help you bring those resources to the county. I'm very proud that the Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council considers all of 95033 to be part of our service area. So we're helping support the growth of Santa Cruz County Fire Safe. But in the meanwhile, we are serving this community. So just because you live in Santa Cruz County doesn't mean we're not your Fire Safe Council.
Thank you. Okay. Patricia.
I just want to let people know that one of the things that Mountain Neighbors Helping Neighbors has organized is a special team of people who come to your home and help you to clean up your property. We don't do trees. That's Patty. And if you qualify for their program and there's reasons why you can't do the work yourself, then we can do some work together. And even if you don't qualify for her program and you need some help cleaning up the weeds and the fallen branches and things like that on your property, and you can't afford to employ somebody to do those things, please give me a call. My name and phone number and the Mountain Neighbors can be found often in the Mountain Network News and online at mountainNeighborsHelpingNeighbors.org. Forget that one, but it's .org. So we really, really want to help people who have trouble paying people to come and clean up or doing the work themselves. Please let us know. We haven't had a job for a while. We're anxious.
I don't know how many Villa Del Monte residents there are, but we have just started a Villa Del Monte Firewise just within the last couple of days. Just Googling for it this afternoon, and the search engines haven't found us yet, but within a few days you should be able to Google Villa Del Monte Firewise and join us.
So we've talked about neighbors who don't maintain their property.
We also have a problem in that there are large tracts of land up here with absentee neighbors. They're just undeveloped property. For the Cal Fire Station on Highland Way, it's got to be some kind of cruel joke that they're sitting there looking at this huge, impenetrable jungle that would go up in a flash and really create a big problem for them. Is there anything we can do to address these types of properties?
In the absence of any better idea, as Larry suggested, John Leopold is our supervisor for this district, and he's very conscientious. He attends firemen barbecues, and I think that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, along the lines, there's your county supervisors, if you're on to District 1, District 3, that there's not much we can do. Right?
When I lived down in Santa Clara County, I didn't trim my weeds one year, and the county weed abatement showed up. Why is there no county weed abatement in Santa Cruz County?
It's a great question. Next time at John's constituent meeting. Okay, Larry, you want to come up? People can't hear you. By the way, after Larry talks, maybe we'll take one more question and then try and wrap up. We don't want to keep people too late.
The unincorporated people count is 1/2 of the Santa Cruz population. Now, if we don't have a voice, it's because we're not taking it. Can I be any clearer? We have at John Leopold's monthly meeting, which is, I think he's the only supervisor who does that all the time. 35 people is tops. Oh, and the same questions come up every time. What are we going to do about the roads?
And the water.
And the water.
Okay, last question. You got a question?
No, just a response on this business of properties that do not clear their weeds, either because their property owners are non-residents, or even if they reside but are just not able to do the work. In Santa Clara County, where I live, their weed abatement program, they check the property, and if it's not if it's not what they call fire safe, or I'm not exactly sure what all they're looking for, but they notify the property owner, and if it's not done within a certain time, they will hire people to do it, and they then I guess they basically put a bill on the lien on the property, and it becomes a payment for the next property tax, as an extra fee on their property tax the next year. So it's not like it requires extra countywide tax or something to support it. The individual property owner is going to support it one way or the other.
Right. Any other burning questions?
I'm wondering if the utilities, beyond PG&E, have any role in this. In our neighborhood, the trees above the road are just laced full of wires from Comcast and phone companies, and it's just full of them. You can't even see the sky.
Yeah, so Kevin made a good point about all the utilities and all the wires and stuff. And
nobody can do anything about it.
That one is, again, it's what do we do, right? And where do we take it? And I'm going to bring this back and then hand it to Kevin to close out. One of the things that we wanted to do as a group, right, so this fire safe road is when you start thinking about, oh my God, we can't do this, and what about that, what about that, it kind of starts getting overwhelming. And you start going, what the heck, it's up. And we said, again, it goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier. We wanted to take action. So yes, we're focusing on a few things, but it's the things that we can take action on. And I truly believe success breeds success. start somewhere, get success, make those relationships. I mean, the fact that you all are here, that's huge, right? We start a few Firewise communities out there, that's huge. We start talking to each other. We start getting education out. Before you know it, success breeds success. 2 years, 3 years from now, we will be very different. Then do we have the muscle? Have we made the connection and been able to do something with the utilities? Who knows? Maybe. But you can't take it all right now. When the reality is there's only a very few people who are doing this. I mean, again, if you're interested, please join us. We need more people. I mean, all of us have jobs. I have a full-time job, right? Came from my job, I have a family, I got everything. Every one of us has that. So we need more people to join us, do the little part. But if every one of us does a little part, man, we can be so powerful. And that's what this is all about. Building a community. Our community is really important.